So Mithya is a remake of a British show called Cheat. Now Cheat doesn't have a season 2, but Mithya does. So actually it's the only sequel that's kind of sort of overtaken its predecessor.
हुमा का ऐसा वाइब ही नहीं है एक तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है मैं आ रहा था मैं तुझ पे भी आ रहा था
I love this.
तो आप बोलना चाहते हो you're very sweet and humble.
अगर मैं कह दूंगा मैं humble हूँ तो फिर मैं humble कैसे
फील I've been asked questions everything from आप बिकिनी कब पहनेंगी और आपने इस फिल्म में कितने किसिंग सीन किए type questions in a public platform and not just me, many actresses and I've had to today I can be like hey don't ask me that question.
Oh yeah,
that's not cool.
You know, you have an interview, you have a conversation with someone for 20-30 minutes
and you take out
30 seconds of a clip which doesn't have a head or a tail to it and that is what's amplified.
मैं 6.5 फुट के बंदे को ऐसे पकड़ रहा हूँ जो
oh my god
अब डायरेक्टर को दिख रहा है अपने में तो
क्या बात है, must be true.
Hi team Mithya, welcome
Hi.
to Midday.
Thank you.
First of all, many congratulations that of course the first season did very well. That's why we are here back.
Thank you.
And we have a lovely addition in Naveen.
Thank you.
And I was watching the trailer and just felt that it's always great, you know, to see pulp, thriller, and I think I mean, in fact, I feel like we are really getting into that genre on OTT. That, you know, you go in locals or in cab also and you see, you know, people really like women, men really glued to their screens. And I think I really wanted to start with you, Huma, that to be in the center of this universe. When you were told that we are taking the story forward, how did you react? Did you at that time felt that do we need to, or did you feel very excited?
You know, actually Mithya is the only show and it's quite an interesting trivia. So Mithya is a remake of a British show called Cheat.
Correct.
And which is how season 1 happened. And because it was so successful, now Cheat doesn't have a season 2, but Mithya does. So actually it's the only sequel that's kind of sort of overtaken its predecessor.
That's amazing.
So it's quite cool from that perspective. So of course we were very excited. And then my first question was, "Arey, but uska to tha hi nahi to story." हाँ नहीं लिखेंगे ना, क्या है लिखेंगे. And I loved that confidence, that enthusiasm, that Goldie, Applause, Z, they all had the faith they had, you know, in this show. And the result is now there for everyone to see.
Right. What about you, Avantika? What was your first reaction to it? To go back and shoot again with
इसका
Huma?
तो shooting कब है? Shooting कब है?
I was saying कि मतलब ticket book हो गई कि नहीं? Straight. That was just the question that I had because we had so much fun shooting the first season. It really felt like a holiday, like a paid holiday. I didn't think I was going for work, you know, after shooting the first season. So we all were just really excited to be back there, be in Darjeeling and just have the kind of ball that we did the first time around.
And then to have this new addition.
This cool cat.
Yeah.
Naveen, did you feel like an outsider on the set? These two are already, they get along so well. That happens, you know, at times when you're joining an old family.
Not really यार, ऐसा हुमा का ऐसा वाइब ही नहीं है एक तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है मैं आ रहा था मैं तुझ पे भी आ रहा था.
I love this.
मैं कहता है मैं हुमा के साथ फर्स्ट टाइम मैं काम कर रहा हूँ सो बहुत ही इजी सा वाइब है. इट्स लाइक शी इज यू नो वो इतनी कूल है सभी के साथ. शी डजंट टेक हरसेल्फ टू सीरियसली तो फिर आप भी बहुत इजीली जेल कर जाते हो. व्हेन आई स्टार्टेड शूटिंग विद Avantika,
She was a bit catty, na, with you?
No, not catty.
She gave you a little attitude.
But Avantika thoda...
She's still giving you looks and attitude.
She, you know, because she's too focused. So she's really focusing on what she's doing. तो starting में हमारी इतनी बात नहीं हो रही थी.
अब कुछ ज़्यादा ही हो रही है.
अब तो हाँ, बिना बात किए दिन जाता नहीं.
But Naveen, what about... But what about Mithya season 2 really appealed to you?
My character, yeah. First of all, I don't think I had done anything like this before. You know, it's little. I played grey parts, but grey in this setup, in this world, with these actors, with this production house. So it was very new to me. Of course, the production house, the producer, that also played a big part, and the script, my co-actors, location. Yeah. So all these मतलब
कप चम्मच प्लेट सब
और मुझे थोड़े पैसों की भी जरूरत थी तो
थोड़े
थोड़े मिले ज्यादा मिले.
मुंह फाड़ के पैसे लिए इसने. बोला मैं बहुत बड़ा चलते हैं मेरे शो. एस्पिरेंट नहीं देखा क्या तुमने?
नहीं, बस just 2 वक्त की रोटी हो जाए बस. और
घी के साथ.
Wow, wow, wow. But it's very interesting that how, like Avantika, you've very recently stepped into this mad world. Huma is someone who has done like this terrific, big theatrical work, and in the last few years also kind of gotten into OTT. And I mean, her other show, Maharani, that also got consecutive seasons. But you specifically, you actually made your splash on OTT. With TVF is that one section of digital, world of India where so many of these stars, so many of these creative talents and stories got, took birth even before big stars came on OTT.
Yeah.
So when you are facing camera with, when you're facing camera with these actors, is there ever a sense of, I know this world very well, I know this setup very well, because hum tab karte the jab, the Netflix, the Z5, nothing at that time even existed.
नहीं यार, करते वक्त आप ऐसा थोड़ी सोचते हो. एक तो आप OTT करके नहीं सोचते हो when you're working on a script. It's a script.
Correct.
It's the shoot. अब वो कहाँ वो OTT पे दिखाया जाएगा या वो हॉल में आया जाएगा, वो एक अलग बात है. But I am an acting student right now. I have not done any training in any school. So I think I've learned on set. So for me every character is a new character. मेरे में वो अभी thought आया ही नहीं है कि बॉस मेरे को आता है. मे बी अगर मैं बहुत रेगुलरली काम कर रहा हूँ तो अभी दिस ऑल्सो आई थिंक आई स्टार्टेड. मैं एस्पिरेंट्स 2 के बाद बीच में कुछ शूट किया था, फिर डायरेक्टली मिथ्या किया. तो ऐसा बहुत रेगुलरली काम नहीं कर रहा होता हूँ. सो इनफैक्ट हर शूट पे मैं स्टार्टिंग में थोड़ा सा क्या काफी अनश्योर होता हूँ. कि भाई बिकॉज आपको रोल समझने में भी वक्त लगता है कि आई एम अप्रोचिंग दिस कैरेक्टर फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम. आई एम ऑल्सो एक्सप्लोरिंग दिस विद एवरी सीन. ऐसा नहीं होता है कि बिफोर यू गो एंड सेट यू नो व्हाट यू गोइंग टू डू. सो हाँ, so that kind of feeling never, I mean, at least I'm right now I'm not there. Maybe.
No, he has no sense of arrogance like that about it at all. And in fact, when we were doing our scenes together, it was, like you said, he's done some amazing work.
Yeah.
But exactly like he said, every time he was approaching it, it was very that, okay, what do you think? Do you think this is working? What are you feeling?
Wonderful.
Which is so nice to have that, that you want to collaborate, you want to make sure that you're doing it right, or how can you improve that and constantly do that in that sense. That was definitely his approach.
And I genuinely feel actors get a lot of credit for things they don't do, See, I have done 15 odd shows. Only 2 or 3 of them have worked. So why was that?
Worked massively.
Because it's, क्योंकि वो they were written, बहुत लिखे अच्छे थे, वो direct अच्छे हैं, they were edited.
It's always a collaboration.
Yeah.
It is always a collaboration.
तो मेरे
It's not
अंदर
a one person army.
वो कैसे आ जाए कि I have done it.
Whether it's good or bad, it's
तो आप
always
बोलना
a
चाहते हो
wholesome.
you're very sweet and humble.
नहीं, मैं तो ऐसा नहीं बोलना चाह रहा. मैं तो बस अपनी राय प्रेजेंट कर रहा हूँ. वो तो बस ऐसा लग रहा है शायद. अगर मैं कह दूंगा मैं हम्बल हूँ तो फिर मैं हम्बल कैसे हूँ?
Huma, Naveen said this very wonderful thing about you, that she does not take herself seriously. Now, this sort of very secure, and it's not just him, so many co-stars of yours over the years that I have ever spoken to in interviews, they've always said this thing, that she makes it light. She makes the atmosphere so easy that, if you have doubts, if you have that any apprehension or, if you're feeling anxious on set, it just dissipates. Now, to have this sort of energy, did you always have this even when you started? Or is it something that,
No, I think a lot of people did that for me when I had that. So I think I just have to pay back in that currency. I think, I of course appreciate and always remember the co-stars I had who were kind to me, or who just made it easy, or who just, held me and said, okay, come here. And I like that. I appreciate that. Lots of people. One person who's no longer with us, who comes to my mind, is Mr. Om Puri. He, I still remember I was doing this very, very difficult scene in this movie that we did together, Gurinder's film, Viceroy's House. I know I was also fairly new. I was a little overwhelmed. It's my first international production. Gurinder Chadda, of course, and there was this emotional scene where he's playing my blind father, and the partition is going on. I'm, leaving the love of my life behind, and my father doesn't know. And that moment he finds out, and we're in the back of the car, just me and Om Saab, and I kind of am crying and he's blind. He touches my face and he can just feel my tears, but he can't see my tears. So it's a very beautifully written scene. And of course, there's pressure, time nahi hai, jaldi karo, the usual things. And as a new actor, sometimes at that point in time, because also I didn't grow up here, I didn't know like what I could say, what I could not. Like I was very, very like, ab to main bahut bolti hu. But us time pe I was very like, I don't know. Timid, no, I was just scared and unsure. So, and I used to be like, can I ask for one more take? Is that okay? Like, the director should know. Like, I was like, very unsure कि director बता देगा ना, ये बता देगी कि अगर एक और चाहिए होगा. But I didn't get that concept that I can also ask for one more if I am not really happy. And he was next to me and we got the take and Guru said, okay, fine, moving on. And he sensed that hesitation in me. And he said, Gurinder, one more for me. And I just looked at him and he said, do one more. And I can never forget that. It was such an act of kindness because he was great and I wanted to do one more take and he just said, do one more.
So
because
nice.
He could also sense as an actor that
You wanted that.
I wanted that. And then that's the scene that is there in the film right now. So whenever I see that film and that moment, I always, like in my heart, like I bless him and I say thank you. Because you remember those acts of little kindness.
Yeah.
You know, that somebody doesn't need to do it for you, but they end up doing for you. So, yeah.
But Huma, it's very interesting that how your perspective is in as a person and as a celebrity. And I say this because this is an industry which is of course very competitive.
Sure.
And because all your competition highs and lows are so publicized, you know, it becomes even more intense for artists. There are people who would be vying for the same character. It would be, it's very normal. You know, sometimes there are friendships which are broken, relationships which kind of just you lose on the way because maybe films didn't work.
Sure.
And that can leave a bitter taste in the mouth. Especially I feel for people who come from the outside because they don't have that safety net or familiarity of growing up in the industry to still have that positivity and to still extend that kindness to actors who are coming after you. You know, to artists who are coming after you and to not be like, you know, it didn't happen with me, so why should I be nice to people? I mean, that also sometimes happens.
Sure.
Isn't it difficult?
But I feel like we all have to break that cycle, no? That cycle of toxicity, of dysfunction. I still see that around me in a lot of people. I feel like just because you've been treated poorly, you think you must also be like that because that's the way of the world. And I feel no, because you can do better. You know, I've been treated poorly. It's not that everything was guns and everything was like, you know, milk and roses. I've been treated poorly where I've been thrown out of films. And I found out through the press, I've been promised something that has not happened. This happens to everyone.
Yeah.
You know, so nobody's, and I think, and I always tell myself, nobody's targeting me, you know, and I need to stop playing the victim in my head. You're a victim only when you believe you're a victim. It happens to everyone. You just have to at that moment suck it up and be like, I just got to work harder. And I always believe कि आप, you know, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है. So I feel you have to elevate your own game. And that is all I've been focusing on. Otherwise, of course, it can drive you mad. Of course, it can make you negative and bitter and being like, उसको ये इसलिए मिल रहा है और उसको इसलिए मिल रहा है. But after a point, and also, it's not that I shy away from it. Like, if somebody's wronged me, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've spoken more to Avantika actually. Like, I'm very vocal about my likes and dislikes and if somebody, but I don't need to necessarily go to the media about it. You know, I don't need to wash my linen in public. But if you ask me as a friend and as a colleague, like what my opinion is, I'll tell you this person is horrible, toxic, because I feel like at least we need to be there for each other, right? Because we're working in the same business. And if somebody's wronged me, I need to address that, you know, at least in our peer circle. And maybe that might rectify behavior as opposed to me thinking, तुमने मेरे साथ ऐसा किया, अब मेरे पास जो power आएगी तो मैं भी ऐसा करूँगी. I think that's pretty horrible. So I feel name and shame, not necessarily go to the media because, I mean, you know, sometimes it's not really reported correctly.
Yeah.
So it's
and
not
then
really,
it becomes really dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, it loses, I always feel it loses the purpose.
It loses the purpose because then you become, then they're just fueling it for clickbait.
It's a match.
Yeah. Like, it's a match. It's not a very clickbaity. It's not the essence of what you were trying to fight for, say, has just gotten lost.
And then, I mean, even though I'm a journalist, and then we go on to ask everyone in the industry about what do you
क्या
think
लगता है?
about he said for her.
Yeah,
I'm like, why are they?
Why is
Why am I
anybody
asking?
else's opinion?
Exactly.
Why does anyone else
and
have
it's horrible.
to add to
Horrible.
that?
But Avantika, you know, as we were speaking about family and comfort. I do feel, of course, you have this comfort of, you know, of a family, of a mother who is a star, who, you know, who's been in this industry for so long. Of course, you would have all of that comfort. But I also feel today, and maybe Huma can, you know, add her opinion to it, is that today's actors and actresses have this sort of pressure, you know, to be picture perfect and to not just have make any mistake, because the social media and
Amplifies
social
it.
media pages, they just I think they kind of label you as red flags.
Yeah.
You know, the word red flag is also casually, and so
Bastardized
it's
completely.
absolutely, it's lost its meaning.
Sure.
So it's like whether perhaps you kind of made a loose comment, or maybe it's just in the moment you said something,
Yeah.
and perhaps a year later you can always look back and say, maybe I did that wrong. But social media and today's times don't allow people to, you know, kind of look back. It's because it's fast, so you did it. It gets amplified, it's on the 100 pages, and then the actors suddenly become very PR driven, conscious of what they want to speak.
Correct.
And I do feel they lose out on personalities. Like, I feel like Huma has always been this opinionated person. Also because I do feel at that time when she started, or even in the middle of it, people were still kinder.
Not at all.
You think so?
Please.
You
Not
think?
at all. I was waiting for you to finish it. Because I feel I've been asked questions, everything from आप बिकिनी कब पहनेंगी और आपने इस फिल्म में कितने kissing scene किए type questions in a public platform, and not just me, many actresses. And I've had to, today I can be like, hey, don't ask me that question.
Oh, yeah.
That's not cool. But at that time, and even our teams or PR people would be like, just say no comment, because whatever you say, they'll chapo it. So just be like, no comments, they can't chapo. And I remember I used to feel so conflicted and so angry, saying, but how can you ask somebody
that.
these kind of retarded questions, and why am I why am I supposed to suck it up and be like, no comments, and be like, you know, whatever, when I would be seething inside. Today I feel everybody's like, hey, excuse me, I don't think you should say that, and that's not cool.
Is it because you have experience in the industry, so you
I
can
think it's
have
also
that sort of
I think it's
positioning?
also that, but also that, but I also feel social media has also amplified it more. Earlier, you could choose what you would cut. Now there's so many cameras, like you will also get screwed.
But that's
Sorry.
also like
That's
the
true. That's true.
terrible thing is that, you know, you have an interview, you have a conversation with someone for 20-30 minutes.
And you take out.
They take out 30 seconds of a clip which doesn't have a head or a tail to it, and that is what's amplified for a clickbaity purpose, right? And we see it happen with a lot of people recently also, in young people who may have said something without knowing or not have that, you know, experience before. And then it gets portrayed in this light as, oh, this person is arrogant or obnoxious, or that's a red flag, and you know, all of these things. Especially when they ask you about your personal life, the idea is that I can turn around and be whoever I want to be, and whatever my opinions and views are, they don't need to match up with somebody else's. And you may think of them as red flags, but you are hearing two sentences.
Yeah, and it's so subjective.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, in that context, in that scenario, in what is happening in a person's life, you're taking two sentences and going like, oh, red flag, red flag.
Are you conscious of being in the media that way? Because so many newcomers are really put down, and it's horrible what happens on Twitter, on Instagram.
Not just new, everybody gets put down. I feel it's become very toxic in that sense, right? But also, I feel like so many people are looking at it for so much validation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that needs to be addressed.
That's
You're
what
not
I'm
going
doing.
to fix your childhood trauma issues or your family problems or the fact that you need acceptance and love and need to be seen on social media. So if that's what you're looking for, then it's the wrong place. It's like looking for like a diamond in a haystack. Like that's like go to the jewelry store, buddy. Like that's what I want to be. Like let's redirect it.
But to answer that, no, I don't get very nervous about that or conscious about that, simply because exactly like she's saying, I'm not trying to come here to fix my problems. This is not my outlet. You know, I have friends, families, and therapy if I need to do that.
So true.
This is not what I come here to do that for.
Right. But I have to ask Naveen that, you know, in the beginning when we're talking about the work that you've done, I think a lot of good work also sometimes is followed by a lot of stereotyping. Right, you know, and this has happened to so many actors. It's also very natural. He's the aspirant guy. He's done pictures, so let's offer him similar sort of setups or stories because that's safe. Has that happened to you? Do you reject a lot of work because you are looking for versatility?
Honestly, this is my perception. I believe my role in pictures is very different from what I've done in Aspirants.
That's true.
But a
That's
lot of
true.
people, they see it, they put it in the same zone.
Correct.
Because TVF is considered in a very
Yeah.
broader,
So-
loose
yeah.
terms, is just one.
मैं तो
one
मूछे
thing. Yeah.
मूछे लगाई, कोट वोट पहना, मुझे लगा मुझे पुलिस वाले का रोल मिलेगा. उनको अभी भी लग रहा है कि अरे it's the TVF show, which so first of all I feel they are very different from each other, but yeah, I also feel that stereotyping is something which is quite natural, and people are not, it's very difficult for people to imagine you in something that you have not done. So हमारे casting directors भी उस space में नहीं सोचते हैं. तो you have to fight that. You have to look for scripts and you have to crack it. And that's what I've been trying to do. I did Breathe and I've done Mithya. I'm very happy it came to me. And I think it's an ongoing struggle, but I don't
mind it.
I don't mind it anymore. It's like मेरे लिए भी तो बहुत मुश्किल होगा शायद किसी को किसी और रोल में देखना. Could be, no? अगर so that's the role that I'm doing next. I'm very happy that I got it. Even I wouldn't imagine myself doing that part.
What's that?
जिसके लिए मुच्छी उगा रखी है मैंने. I'm doing action. मैं 6.5 फुट के बंदे को ऐसे पकड़ रहा हूँ जो
Oh my God.
अब डायरेक्टर को दिख रहा है अपने में तो
अब बात है, must be true.
It's a film
तो
or
होगा
a
ही.
show?
It's a show. It's a show.
Huma, it's very interesting that most of your characters, and I mean, it might be called breadcrumbs or the bare minimum, but they always have a job, and I feel like we've been through those years in Indian cinema when female characters had nothing else to do but just wait for the man to look at her. But you even if you are in love, you have a life, you have a job. Even here, you're a professor. In your upcoming film Gulabi, you are an auto rickshaw driver, if I'm not wrong. And Bayan, which I'm very, very actually excited about because I think it's the first time you'll be playing a detective. And I find it amazing that, when they describe in synopsis for female characters what their professions are and how their stories and their lives are so intricately connected to their professions, because that's not often written for women. I want to ask you, is it also very conscious on your part, to have a character who has a complete life? Because I see that time and over again in your choices.
100%. It's a very conscious choice. I fight for it. I ask for it. I demand it. I'll give you an example from Mithya. In season 1, there was a scene which comes towards the end of season 1, where, of course, some time has passed. Yash is there, who's playing my son. This little toddler, basically, like this few-month-old toddler. And I've written a book and I'm supposed to make a speech about my book. And the lines that had come to me, and Purva that time was writing, and she's also a woman. Wonderful writer, by the way. And she some lines came to me and I sat with her and I was very upset because I was like, I don't know who's made these changes, who's not there in the original draft. Because it just talks about how happy she is with now she's written this book for her son. As if a man wrote this book, he would not always attribute it to his children. He would just talk about his own personal journey, and what it meant to him as an individual.
So true.
But the moment you have even a 1-month-old baby, everything becomes about that. And that's the lens we put on women all the time. And I really resent that. And she just looked at me and she's like, yeah, you're right. And you're sorry, it was a collective mistake and we must rectify it. And I'm thinking small things like that, I think, and that's something. It's always I always look for parts that have agency. It doesn't matter about length. It doesn't matter if you're headlining the show or the film. It's always about whether this character has agency and how this character is moving the plot along. And that's all, and that's not breadcrumbing at all. I think that's a very, very real change because you are for because not every story will be about something.
Absolutely.
But it's about within the story, what are you doing? What is your place? How are people looking at you? How are you being represented? And that for me is extremely important.
Have you ever been told that you have, I don't know, maybe it's my personal view of you, that I think you have such a strong and overpowering and towering presence, as a woman, that it's very difficult to look at you through male gaze. I do feel it's difficult.
Well, some boys will disagree. That's all I can say.
No, when I say male gaze, I mean in terms of that a man writing a woman versus a very feministic way of writing a woman.
I know. So a script had come to me. This director offered me, lovely director. I really want to work with him. I won't tell you who, and it was with a big star and whatever. And इसमें एक scene था कि वो गुंडे हीरो को मार रहे हैं और मैं खड़े होकर रो रही हूँ, बोलती हूँ छोड़ दो इन्हें. And I called him and said, listen, I really want to work with you, and of course this production house, and of course this hero. But look at me. It's a bad casting. So let's find something else to do together. But like I'll probably एक दो तो मारूंगी उसको कम से कम. ये हट यहाँ से चल.
It's very difficult to believe that you would just stand there, you know.
Exactly. So I said, and he was
you
also
could cry,
laughing.
but still also kind of just
Yeah.
kid.
So he said, no, you're right, and yeah, we'll work on something else.
Yeah.
And I think we will.
This is a question which I think so many of us would like to ask you, that whenever we see you with Bhagyashree, it's such an endearing kind of, you know, image. And it's always, I always find it very, very, very interesting that how actors are taking these baby steps into the industry, and then they have their parents, you know, joining them, and who are stars themselves. How that dynamic is, you know, how is that dynamic at home? You know, it's a star mother, you know, and I find it very, very intriguing. And I wanted to ask you that, is she sort of a parent who's like, what are you doing, you know, and I want to give you tips, or ऐसे पहनो, ये करो, वो करो, ये sign मत करो, you know, does that happen?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
She's not a
she
fan,
knows.
yeah.
She knows that, and in fact, she's had dinner with my mom, and they've had long conversations. My mother is the mother who comes to me and says, "Sit up straight. You haven't had water today. You haven't eaten your food properly. When are you going to go to sleep?" That is my mother, just as any other mother.
Yeah, she's a very non-filmy mom.
Yeah.
That's the question. Yeah.
Completely. Like, you know, that's how she is. And everything comes down to your posture is bad, that's why your life is wrong. That's what it comes down to.
Very typical.
Yeah. That there's no concept of star and all this at all.
Is there ever a plan to kind of, you know, both of you collaborating?
I would love to be working with mom. I think that would be awesome, but we'd have to have something really amazing to work together.
Right, and I hope that happens. Many, many congratulations.
Thank you, darling.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.